Hello, Life Church, and welcome to our Wednesday evening service. We used to have a Wednesday evening service where it would be quite the regular sort of worship and then a talk. Tonight it's going to be a little bit different. We do still have some worship, but we're trying to make it a little bit more interactive so that we can engage with what we're hearing. And so for these next number of Wednesday nights, we're just going to do this and see how it goes, and hopefully you'll be part of this, engaging with what we have heard on Sunday mornings. And so for this first one, we've been looking at the book of Nehemiah. We've looked at chapter 1, chapter 2. We'll have a recap on that, and then I have two very open-ended questions so that you can be a blessing to us, so that you can leave a comment or an encouragement or a testimony that's going to be a real blessing to every one of us. So let's have a look at what we have looked at so far with Nehemiah chapter 1 and Nehemiah chapter 2, and then I'll ask those two questions. So Nehemiah chapter 1, we have the story of Israel being in captivity. They're coming towards the end of their captivity, and part of that process is going to be God using Nehemiah. And the book and the chapter 1 starts off by saying that Nehemiah is basically a butler to the king, King Artaxerxes, and he asks a report about how things are going in Jerusalem, and the report comes back that Jerusalem's walls are broken down and the city gates are burned with fire, and it just hits Nehemiah like a hammer blow. And he ends up grieving and weeping and mourning and eventually turning that towards prayer. And then the rest of chapter 1 is Nehemiah praying out this prayer towards God, asking for God to keep his promises to the city of Jerusalem, and also asking for favour in front of the king. And he prays this in the month of Kislev, around about November, December. And then months later, in the month of Nisan, round about March, April time, he gets his opportunity. So he's been praying all this time, and God answers his prayer. So he's pouring wine for the king, and the king notices there's something different about him and says, "Nehemiah, why are you sad?" And Nehemiah is a little bit nervous about this, but he tells the truth and says, "I've heard that my city back home has broken down walls and its gates are burned with fire." And the king does something incredible. I mean, this is a king talking to a butler. The king basically says, "Nehemiah, what can I do for you?" And we have that lovely little phrase where it says, "And Nehemiah prayed to God and then said to the king." So he says a quick arrow prayer, "Help me God," probably. And then says to the king, "King, if you send me back to Jerusalem, I'll rebuild the city," which is a phenomenal thing to say. It's not that Nehemiah thinks he's amazing. He doesn't think he's a hot shot. He just knows that he's been praying to God and believes that he has a role to play in the purpose of God rebuilding the city. And so the king says, "Yes, I'll do it. Not only am I going to give you permission to go, I'm going to sign letters for you that you can show these letters to anybody who's down there that you are on royal appointment." And so we just see the favour of God being poured out on Nehemiah. And we're going to continue looking at the story of Nehemiah. It's an amazing story. But for now, let's look at chapters 1 and 2. And I have two questions based on what we have heard. The first question is this: how do you pray best? Chapter 1, Nehemiah, heartbroken, starts to pray. And I remember we threw out that challenge at the start of the year, make space for yourself this year to pray. But I'm asking you, how do you pray best? And you answering this is going to help everybody who's going to see the comments, because it's almost expected that Christians just get up, bounce out of bed at 6 o'clock every morning and pray for an hour. But you know as well as I do, it's not true. It's not true. We pray in all kinds of different ways at all kinds of different times, probably based on our personality. So for some of you, you're a morning person and you get up in the morning and that's the best time for you to pray. That's wonderful. And if that's you, please let us know that. How you pray and how you pray best. But for some of you, it's nighttime prayer. That's when you have a clear mind. That's when you just relax, and that's when you pray best. For some of you, you pray best in a group setting or with another person. For some of you, that's the worst thing for you. You would just rather pray on your own. Maybe for some of you, like me, I love going out for a walk to pray. I just love being outside and seeing a bit of nature and praying that way. For some of you, that would be the worst thing in the world. Some of you may pray as you drive in the car. Some of you have a set time to pray during the day and you're rigid about that. Some of you just pray as you go through the day. And so could you let us know how you pray best? Because what you share is going to be an encouragement to the rest of us. It's not you showing off, it's you giving ideas. Because, there may be some of you thinking, I can just manage 5 minutes in between the school run sometimes. But if one of you says that, that's going to encourage others who probably do the same thing. So, question number 1, how do you pray best? Please leave a comment, let us know. Question number 2, what does the favour of God look like on your life? What does the favour of God look like on your life? And we saw with Nehemiah that the favour of God was definitely that the king gave him favour. The king gave him blessing and permission to go and do what he felt was right. And that may be the case with you. Maybe you have an employer who is just good and kind to you. I believe that can be the favour of God. Maybe it's your lecturer or your teacher that's good and kind to you. That can be the favour of God too. Maybe for some of you it's going through a valley. But even though you've gone through the valley, your testimony is, God was good to me. God was with me every step of the way. Can I just give you pre-warning? Friday morning we have a testimony from someone in our church that is just going to bless you. It's an amazing testimony of someone who went through illness to the point of death. And people prayed. And I believe the favour of God was on this person and brought them through it and added decades to their life. And so if you're around at the weekend, please log in, watch this testimony. It's going to bless you. And I think that's favour. God taking us through difficult times, but coming out of it with a testimony is definitely the favour of God. But what else does the favour of God look like? I mean, we made some suggestions. But what do you say? What would you say the favour of God looks like? Maybe you've got a testimony. Maybe you've got something to share with us, a story. Maybe you've got a verse to share with us that really meant something to you while you were going through something. And you can say, yeah, that was the favour of God on my life. So what do you think? What we need you to do is make a comment, all right? And get us all to engage with that. Now, if you're watching this and it's Wednesday night, wonderful, jump in, make a comment. But if you're catching up with this and it's Thursday or Friday or whenever, still comment, because as soon as the comment comes up, other people can see it and we can maybe just keep the conversation going along the lines of encouragement. So there we go. There's our interactive Wednesday evening. Leave a story, leave a testimony, leave a comment, leave a prayer, whatever it is, you're going to be a blessing to lots of people. Okay, and I hope this is going to be something that will encourage every single one of us. It's lockdown. We're doing whatever we can in order to keep everybody strong, spiritually healthy, and just blessed. So go ahead, leave something with us.